Ladies and gentlemen, the Wrestling Fans Podcast Ringside Society proudly presents to you another fantastic episode of 15 Minutes of Fandom. That's right, that's where we take the spotlight and put it on one wrestling fan that we feel stands out from the rest. With that being said, I'm your host, that ocean crossing, straight up bossing, flight catching, shot glass snatching. Where's he going next? Nobody knows. 3 continents down, 3 more to go. No cap, straight facts. The worldwide star boy, Remy Blue. But it's not about me. We have a guest tonight who is actually also a fellow wrestling fan. But not only that, he is one of the best pro wrestling cosplayers I've ever seen. The man has done it all. He's done Bret Hart. He's done Shawn Michaels. He's done Roman Reigns, the Usos. Just check out his Instagram page, and you will definitely see what I'm talking about. Everybody, welcome to the show, Chris Wain. How you doing tonight, sir?
After that introduction, I'm doing fantastic. But thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on. Let's get to it. But again, thank you so much for that warm introduction. That really means a lot to me.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you for actually entertaining us and showing us your skills as a cosplayer. I gotta say, man, you have a lot of talent on you. Keep on doing what you're doing. When I first saw you, I thought you were a wrestler. So I'm like, I saw your Instagram. I was like, Chris Wain WWE. Like, wow, does this guy wrestle? You look like a wrestler. I mean, you think you could do a mean super kick or a moonsault or something. And then I'm like, okay.
Thank you for that. No, actually, I use the name. Like you mentioned, I'm a huge wrestling fan, and since I was a kid, WWF at the time was my thing. So I kind of made a handle that looked like like a wrestler would use. They just use their name and just attach WWE at the end of it. So I thought that'd be fun. That's why I went with it.
Yeah, hey, you never know, man. You could end up getting hired, man. I mean, we just had a fellow. I just had a fellow podcaster that I've never met him before, but from what I heard, he was podcasting since 2005, and he just got hired by AEW. So I mean, I'm like, hey, sky's the limit, man.
That's incredible. Good for him. Good on him. Congrats to your brother.
Yeah, shout out to Will Washington, man. Congrats on that. But I gotta ask you, man. I always ask our you got a couple of fans here, man. What?
That's my man. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his government name, but Macho Verse got my wife looking at.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that Subway Rumble in a minute, but I gotta ask you, man. How did you become a fan of pro wrestling? What was the match or event that you saw that made you tune in from there on out?
Man, I don't even know life without professional wrestling. So it all started. I was like 3 or 4. We had a huge collection of like VHS tapes, like movies and like shows or whatever was recorded, and we had a lot of blank tapes. And as I'm looking at the blank tapes, I see the labels. It says like Saturday Night's Main Event or like WWF Superstars, and I'm like, oh, what is this? So I put it on and I'm hooked. Like the earliest memory I have is like the Hart Foundation holding the Macho Man Randy. I'm sorry, Macho, I know you're watching this, but and then like the Honky Tonk Man hits him over the head with the guitar, things like that, like Jake the Snake's Snake Pit, Piper's Pit, all that great 80s stuff kind of got me hooked, and I've never turned back since then.
Yeah, man. I don't blame you. I actually, it's funny because I had a similar experience when I started watching. I started watching in 1990, and I remembered I had a babysitter. Her husband used to have the VHSs, but I never really paid attention. I just saw what it was. I just thought, okay, it was wrestling, okay, and that was it. But then all of a sudden, for some reason, I don't know what it was. It was Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Macho King Randy Savage, as he was known as at the time.
Oh yeah.
And Zeus. And from the time I saw that match, I was like hooked. I was like, yo, that was awesome. I gotta see more. I gotta see more of it and whatnot. And ever since then, I've been hooked in everything. And yeah, it's I didn't go to my first show until I was pretty much a grown man, but I've always been a fan since the first time I watched.
Yeah,
So
you brought up some great names. Brutus is one of my all-time favorites, with the big scissors and the crazy cuts in the tights. He was the man. I love Brutus.
one thing, a crazy thing I'd probably do. I don't have much hair on my head now, but if there were a wrestling convention tomorrow, since I hardly have any hair on my head, I just got a buzz cut. I would personally go there and have Brutus the Barber Beefcake cut my hair in front of everyone, just to say, I actually got my hair cut by Brutus Beefcake. I would definitely risk that.
That's a fantastic idea. I would love to do that one.
You could probably put off a good Brutus Beefcake, man. I mean, your cosplays are amazing. I'm like, yo, like I've seen some, but man, hey, keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, growing up, did you ever get to meet any like wrestlers? Like, who are some of your favorites that you enjoyed watching and cheering for?
So my first favorite that I can remember was Ultimate Warrior. I loved everything about him: the energy, the physique, the hair, the face paint, just him running to the ring, doing the ropes. He was larger than life to me. So he was probably like my favorite like main event guy. But like growing up, I always like the Intercontinental guys, like Mr. Perfect, guys like Bret Hart when he was first getting started, Shawn Michaels. Even guys like Ravishing Rick Rude, I just thought they had like some of this like appealing quality that just kind of draws you in, and you just can't turn away. Guys like Macho Man, but if you're talking about like favorites, I would say Warrior is probably the first guy that I was like, oh, this is the guy right here. And WrestleMania 6 was one of my earliest memories as well, and just seeing him win and hold the 2 titles. He's the OG, guy with the 2 belts in in wrestling. We see Roman do it a lot now, but that all starts from Warrior.
Yeah, definitely. Warrior was the first guy to do it, to hold 2 belts in WWE. And man, I would never actually around that time. That was around when I started watching. That was when Warrior and Hulk Hogan, they had that bit of a feud, that confrontation, and. Yeah, that was definitely a great time. Did you ever get to meet the Ultimate Warrior by any chance, or did you want to get to see him?
That's somebody I wish I could have met. I don't know what I would have done. The first person I actually met, I was in 5th grade. I was about 10 years old. It was actually Bret Hart.
Okay, wow. What?
Yeah, that was a big deal to me. And looking back on it, I'm surprised he was actually at the venue that I met him at. He was at a local mall. And I just saw a sign or like a flyer saying like, "Oh, Bret Hart appearance," and he was already world champion by that time. So just to see him in like a small town at a shopping mall, it just blows my mind like now. But like as a kid, I was like, "Oh wow, this is cool." And I remember going up to him and I didn't know what to say. I think I had like maybe like 10, 15 seconds with him, and I just kind of looked at him in awe. And I just said, thank you for like everything you do. And he didn't even say a word to me, but he kind of just like looked at me, gave me like a little smirk, and I shook his hand, and that was all I needed. And he signed a picture for me. I still have it framed. It's that's something I'll cherish forever. He's one of my favorites of all time. And I was able to meet him actually as an adult 2 more times. The last time I met him, it was actually in cosplay as him, so that was a very special moment to me as well.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of meeting Bret 10 years ago. Actually, I will never forget. I will never forget that he was a very chill person, very cool person. I shook his hand, I took a picture with him. The Hart family in general, like from what I've seen, a lot of them are just chill. I've talked to his niece, Bronwyn Billington, who was the Dynamite Kid's daughter. We've actually had his nephew, Mike the Match Hart, on our show back in I think it was season 1 or season 2.
Oh, that's incredible.
Really chill people. Yeah, I couldn't believe that, man. I could not believe it. But yeah, Bret's definitely a good dude, man. Like I got none but love for the Hart family. They were actually one of my favorite families. So
well, absolutely. I think when you think of wrestling families, you gotta have the Harts among the top of the list easily.
Yeah. So did you ever get to go to the shows? Like I mean, what am I saying? You went to WrestleMania 35, but before that, did you ever get to go to like any of like the WWE shows or
You know, like growing up, I kind of wish I had more courage to like ask my parents to take me to shows, because now that I'm older, I hear people like I'm 30, I'm 38 right now, so I'm hearing people like around my age saying like when they grew up, you know, they went to like this show and that show, and I was like, hey, those are like in my area. Like I wish, yeah, I grew up in New York, so like if there was a show like MSG, I was too afraid to like ask my parents like if I can go, because I knew it was a lot of money, so I never you know, I never went for it. But the one time where I really begged my father, I remember, was WrestleMania 10. It was in the Garden. I think I asked him a little too late because the tickets were sold out. So coincidentally enough, the following year, WrestleMania 11, which is considered by many as probably like the worst WrestleMania of all time.
Okay.
They were, I believe it was they were in the Hartford Civic Center in Connecticut. So I asked my dad again the following year if we can go. Fortunately, we were able to go, and yeah, that was my first event. When you think about it, like WrestleMania being my first event sounds like a big deal, you know, like through words. But when people look back and think about WrestleMania 11, I just hear so many bad things about that show. But it holds a special place in my heart. So that, for sentimental reasons, I will never bash WrestleMania 11. But you know, people will say what they will.
WrestleMania 11. That was that was Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund.
Bob Backlund, yeah. So
Lawrence Taylor versus
Shawn
Bam
Michaels
Bigelow.
and Big Daddy Cool Diesel was the WWF title match, and the main event, I remember. Actually, funny story about that night. So the main event was Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow, and TLC plays out LT to the ring. You know, crazy, or it was not TLC. It was TLC or yes, yeah, TLC. Sorry,
It was Salt and Pepper.
Salt and I'm so sorry. Salt and Pepper. Yes, I knew something sounded wrong about that. Yes, Salt and Pepper. So they played into the ring, and in my dad's mind, he's thinking it's a Sunday night. I have school on Monday, and you know I'm only in 5th grade at the time. So he's thinking, okay, we already saw the WWF Championship match. We should go. You have school tomorrow, and I'm thinking like, oh, we're not going to see the main event. And so, you know, we left, and he didn't want to fight with the crowds, and he just wanted to, like, you know, get out while it's not crowded. So, you know, as a 10-year-old, I can't fight with my dad. So we leave the show early, we go home, and my mom's even wondering, oh, how come you're home so early? And she was kind of upset at my dad for paying like all this money for WrestleMania tickets, and then like, you know, bringing me back home early. But for like, I want to say like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years, I never saw like the LT Bam Bam match. Like, you know, I didn't, there was no WWE Network. I never like went back and looked for tapes. I never downloaded it. So, you know, I just went on with my life without ever seeing the main event of WrestleMania 11. And I kind of shared the story with my wife. I don't think we were married at the time. So, you know, she was my girlfriend then. And I let her know, like, you know, she knows like about wrestling, like what I've like taught her and like what I've like shared with her. But I was just sharing the story with her, like, hey, you know, my dad took me, this is my first show and I never saw the main event. And that year she actually bought me the VHS for WrestleMania 11. And, you know, I finally got to watch it maybe like, you know, 15 years later. So that was a very special present for my wife back then. And again, I can't say anything bad about that event, no matter, even though everybody else does, you know, it's still special to me.
Yeah, I don't think that was the worst WrestleMania. I think the worst one was WrestleMania 9. That was like, yeah, it was, I just wasn't really feeling that one. But, yeah, WrestleMania 11 wasn't that bad. To me, it just wasn't. You know, I've seen WrestleMania 9. That's the one that's just yeah, I'd rather forget about it. That was one of Caesar's Palace that had
the one in Vegas.
Yeah. So you know, so the cosplay, man, I gotta say, you are, like I said, once again, you're phenomenal. And tell your boy that did the other Uso, we're gonna be looking for him too, because that was some cool stuff. But yeah, man, how'd you get into the cosplaying, man? Like, because that Man, if you become a wrestler, let me know. We'll definitely have you back on here as a main guest, man.
Oh
But
man, I mean, if that happens, yeah, for sure. But we're, it's so it's kind of like a long-winded answer. I'll try to keep it concise. But like growing up, wrestling was always my favorite like fandom. But I was also into like Marvel, DC, Star Wars, things like that. So as I got older, I was able to go to like Comic-Con. So as I'm walking around, like the floor is like flooded with like Marvel cosplayers, DC cosplayers, even like anime and like characters from like video games. And I'm seeing all these people just like amazed at like how good the quality of their cosplays were. I legitimately thought that New York Comic Con hired like actors to like come to the show like in full like movie getup, and I had no idea these were just like everyday people just creating their own like costumes and cosplays. So seeing like all these different genres represented, like occasionally I'd see a wrestler and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like I never thought of actually like putting together like a wrestler's outfit, but I remember guys like I think this guy was dressed as like Goldust, and I saw somebody like as Sergeant Slaughter, and there's always like a Macho Man somewhere, no matter like where you end up. So I'm seeing these guys and I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Like I don't see a lot of people doing it like back then. Now it's a little bit more common, but I was just like, oh, okay, let me try something out. And it wasn't until like 2000, I want to say like 12, 13-ish, I was a huge fan of the Shield. All three of those guys, I think even today, I think they're all killing it. Probably three of the best right now. But at that time, I just thought their group was so unique, and I love that like Wolfpack mentality they had, and like they were like, it was never about like one being better than the other. They were all three of them were just striving to be the best like possible as a unit. So I'm just looking at their gear. It's not really flashy. It's basically like black cargo pants and like just like tactical SWAT gear. So I'm like, okay, I can kind of put this together. So just by doing that, I just threw it together. I went to I believe the show was Extreme Rules. They had that and I live in New Jersey, so they had an event there. And I was like, okay, let me try this out, and I did. I had a lot of fun with it, and I kind of got hooked like ever since. So yeah, the Shield cosplay was probably my first one, and like you mentioned, I've done several others since then. But that was like the foundation of me getting into it.
Okay, so I know there's a lot coming in with that comes with cosplaying. There's certain details you have to pay attention to, you have to follow with, because some people are like, hey, such so and so doesn't have that there. Why do you have that there? What would you say was your most difficult cosplay to pull off?
To pull in terms of like creating the actual suit, or just like being the character?
Yeah, creating the actual suit.
Creating the actual suit. Okay, so I did a Shawn Michaels last year, and it's from the show that he debuted. The look was Survivor Series 1995. So
Right.
it got like the red. It's predominantly red with like zebra stripes. So I looked at that image and I'm like, okay, this is something I want to do, but I have like no idea how to do this. So I'm just starting to kind of like piece things together, and I get I'm just looking at like colors and like materials and textures, but the vest itself was so laborious. It was just one. I don't know how to like sew or like manipulate foam or things like that, but if I have like a base product, I've developed like some skills where I can like make it look better and like kind of enhance it and customize it to look like what I'm trying to make it look like. So for that, I just bought a red leather vest, and I had to like kind of like freehand all like the details, like and these are like the zebra stripes. And so I'm looking at like his action figure. I'm looking at like the actual event, and anytime he like turns from the camera, I just like pause the video and just kind of screenshot what he looks like. So I need the back, I need the front, even his hat, I had to kind of get like an aerial view of it. So it's just a lot of just, like images, video, and just kind of seeing like the way he moves in it. So I'm
Right.
putting like these layers of paint on, and the first coat looks absolutely horrible. And I'm like, all right, I spent the money on the vest. I have like the tights made. Like, I have to commit, but it looks so bad right now. Like, how can I like make this better? So as I put on like more coats of paint, like the colors are starting to pop, and then so I have like your white um, details, and then I have to like outline that in black, and then he has these like grommets that kind of like go on the stripes. So for that, I was just gonna take like washers that you can find like at a hardware store and just kind of like glue them on. I thought that's kind of like how he did it, and that's how that would translate into the look he had. But I had no
Right.
idea that like they were actually like I believe they're called grommets, and you actually have to like hammer holes into the leather, and then you need to put up like an anchor and kind of like hammer like the circular rings onto the leather so it like catches on. And I just had to do this like repeatedly over and over. So I'm like banging like on the like my vest on the floor. Like my kids can hear, my wife like can't watch TV because I'm just like hammering the floor. So this is just like me like weeks just painting, outlining, hammering. Just my hands were like killing me. But I was actually very happy with the way it came out. But my goodness, it took so long to pull together. And like occasionally I'll have somebody like message me, be like, "Oh, hey, where'd you get that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I actually made it myself." And then they start asking, "Oh, could you make one for me? I'm willing to pay you." And I'm flattered, I'm honored, and I appreciate that you respect what I made. But just to do that again would take so much time, and I don't have. So while I appreciate it, I just can't make them like in like mass quantities. So that was just like a one and done. I just made it, perfected it once, and probably never do it again.
That came out well. Like I think like out of all the ones I've seen, I say that's like the coolest one my opinion that you've done, and you definitely the hard work actually paid off. So which cosplay is yours? Like personally, your favorite one?
Well, it would be that one. Shawn Michaels is my number one of all time. So
Okay.
that's the one I put the most effort into, the most time, the most blood, sweat, and tears, the most love. So that would probably be my favorite one. But if I'm gonna mention another one, I think most recently I really enjoyed. I'll say two of them. I really enjoyed Brett, just because Brett is for me, it's insulting to call him my second favorite wrestler of all time. So I always call him like 1A, because like Shawn and Brett are like my two favorites of all time. So
Right.
it was cool to be Brett, just because of how much I appreciate his work and like what he contributed to the industry. But I had a blast being Seth Rollins. He just got such a wacky, like crazy character with that laugh and like the ridiculous suits. I just I like fashion as well. Like outside of wrestling, fashion is like something that I have a strong passion about, and just having that like that ability just to take like my fashion sense and to kind of like amp it up to by like 10 and just act like like a crazy person was just I had way more fun with that than I thought I would. So there's definitely going to be some more Seth looks in the future, but yeah, that one was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I saw the Seth one. That was cool that you and your wife dressed up as Becky Lynch, and you dressed up as Seth, and y'all were like dancing, and I'm like, wow, that's wrestling couples goals right there, man. That's what's up, man. Kudos to the missus on taking part on partaking in that too.
She had a blast. I really wanted her to be like big time Bex, so that like she can have like a crazy outfit and I can also have a crazy outfit. But some of those things like that she wore were like so out there, and like I wanted her to be comfortable too. So I think the man was like a good like happy medium between like big time Bex and and like who Becky is now. So we had a lot of fun with that. I think she enjoyed it as well, and I think she did look great. Thank you for saying that.
So in regards to Shawn Michaels, any chance we could see maybe a DX Shawn Michaels, or maybe even the Rockers? You and the other guy that was that played the other Uso. Maybe y'all busting out like the frills and everything, and whatnot. To the other guy, if you're watching, don't feel bad about being Marty Jannetty. Marty Jannetty was pretty cool. Feel bad if you're the Leaf Cassidy. I'm cool with Al Snow, but feel bad if you're Leaf Cassidy. That's the worst thing. That's the worst thing to me. That's worse than being the Marty Jannetty of the tag team, being the Leaf Cassidy. Um, a lot of our viewers probably wouldn't even get that. Awesome. Yeah, I actually got to meet him. Like I've been very fortunate because my first 4 favorite wrestlers were the Rockers, Ultimate Warrior, and Tito Santana, and I've gotten to meet 2 out of the 4 of those. I got to take a picture with Marty. I've actually gotten to see Tito wrestle live. It was like 11 years ago, but I never got to like take a picture with him. But he, I told him like straight up, I'm like, Tito, thank you for everything, man. You should have been the world champ back in the day. And that's a hill
I completely agree. Yeah.
That's a hill I'm willing to die on. I mean, he should have been the champion back then. Yeah. But yeah, I got to say though, I'm definitely looking forward to more of your cosplays and everything. So, have you ever considered? You've been doing a lot of great work, with the fabric and everything, and you're into fashion. Have you ever considered becoming a gear designer or a gear maker? Because I can tell you right now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, the gear designer. And for those of you listening, I want you to pay close attention. I have a thing called the Wheel of Wrestling. That's my own thing that I say. And the Wheel of Wrestling is, yes, the pro wrestlers are the focal point. Obviously, it's pro wrestling. But there are many components within that wheel that help it go around. And one of them, you have the ring announcers, you have the managers, you have the promoters, obviously. And one of them are the gear designers / gear makers. And let's be honest, they may not seem like much, but if it wasn't for those men and women, a lot of wrestlers would be wearing gym shorts and t-shirts and, not being able to project their gimmicks or their characters properly. Have you ever thought about diving into that part of professional wrestling? I think you would kill it.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it does cross the bridge or merge the bridge between 2 of the things I really love, like fashion and wrestling, and that's why I pay such close attention to the gear, because it really, I mean, especially like WrestleMania now, it's almost like a fashion show. Like when they come out, everybody always has like new things. It's never just like, oh, I wore this on Raw like 2 weeks ago, I'm gonna wear this for Mania. Like, no, you have special gear created, special entrance attire. Your entrance is different. Everything. The only thing holding me back from that is like I don't think I have the skills to do so. Like for instance, with fabrics, I'm not like good at like whatsoever. So I do a lot of research. I'm okay with like adding like graphics on, but in terms of like sewing and like creating custom like fitting, either like pants or like a shirt or whatever, like I have no like experience in that. So. But I mean, if I could like go back in time and kind of like, like take courses in design, yeah, that would definitely be something I would love to do. And I think you're right. Like the persona can take you so far, but it's really like the gear that like sets you apart. Like we were talking about Warrior before. I think what made him so special was like his overall presentation, right? So like even though he has that physique and the hair, like without the face paint and like the colorful attire and like the tassels and like the boots to like everything, he's just not the Warrior. He needs like that. The cherry on top would be like like even though he didn't wear much, like what he wore like really set him apart from everybody else.
Yeah, man. Like I know one woman. Her name is Yolanda Jernigan, and she does some great work. And man, if I ever had your talent, I'd be like, okay, I'd give it a shot. Like, hey, you want me to design some gear for you, man? And just start from there. All it just takes is just one person to get their review, and then boom, it just takes off.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So. You're a fan of WWE. Do you watch AEW as well too, or you just stick to the E?
No, I try to watch it. I try to watch AEW when I can. It's just harder for me because I have two kids. So like I feel that like WWE it's like more of like a family friendly product. So I'm okay. Like sometimes my wife doesn't want me to like showing them too much wrestling, but I think for the most part, like WWE like does cater to like a lot of the children and like the younger members of the audience. Whereas like AEW, I feel like is more adult oriented. So like when I have time, like I'll definitely check it out. There's a lot of like my guys that I love in AEW. I'm a huge fan of the Blackpool Combat Club. Like the Elite are awesome. I know Adam Cole's like killing it there, but it's just harder for me to watch. But I try to keep up with everything through like Twitter, like social media. So I like to see what's going on in like New Japan, what's going on in like Impact. Even recently, I've been trying to get into like GCW. I think they've got like a great product. It's not all deathmatch. They do actually have great technical wrestlers and really amazing athletes in over there. So it's nice to see like everything. But to answer your question, like WWE is it's what I grew up with, and it's what's like easy for me. So that's kind of like been my bread and butter, like as a fan. But even in my early years, I loved WCW. I loved ECW. Like TNA, I try to watch like here and there. Again, it's just harder for me to get into it, but just because of like time and accessibility. Not I'm not saying anything bad about the product, but yeah, I mean, I love all wrestling. I don't discriminate.
So if I may ask you, Chris, you're Polynesian, right?
No, so I'm actually Burmese.
Oh, okay. I could have swore for some reason you were Hawaiian.
I
was going to ask you.
I hold nothing against you. Like I get that like very often. So that's why it was fun for me to be like the Usos or like Roman Reigns. It was like an easy transition to do that. But I get that all the time. No worries.
But I'm asking, May, and I don't mean to offend anybody's culture. May is obviously, Pacific Islander, Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. How does it make you feel? Like, what is your mindset seeing that Roman Reigns is the longest reigning WWE champion in this day and age, in this modern age, and he is actually of Samoan descent? Like, what goes through your mind when you see like somebody within that's of your same community, the Asian Pacific Islander community, doing big things in WWE, and then you have the Usos who recently they're the longest reigning tag team. Although, unfortunately they lost them the titles to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but they now hold the distinct honor of being the longest reigning WWE tag team champions of all WWE history.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. To me, it's very sentimental because growing up, it was almost like being Asian was so like different and foreign, and there weren't many Asian students in my school. So there was me and like one other family. So by default, they all thought we were related. Kind of like even in wrestling, like everybody thinks all the Samoans are related. So they thought in my school all the Asians were related. And I just felt like such an outcast and such an outsider by just being me because I was not eating the same foods as my peers, or like my house had different customs. So it was almost like I was almost like embarrassed to be Asian because I did not I guess because like I just felt like different and alienated for like no reason. Like people would make fun of me. They would make fun of my accent, which I didn't even have. And the only cool thing though is like people thought like I knew all forms of martial arts, which was very far from the truth. But because I was Asian, they just assumed like I knew everything. So it took me like many years, and it wasn't until I was like in college and I met like other Asian people and like found community within them that like I learned to like appreciate my culture, and I thought like this is not something I should be ashamed of, but something I should be proud of and embrace. And just looking back at my younger self, I was just thinking like I was so stupid to think that just because I'm different, like because my skin is different and like my eyes may look different, or whatever the case may be, or like my parents were from a different country, it shouldn't make me feel like any less than. And so now I'm like so proud of like where we are as a society that we can like accept like all different like races and ethnicities, and like you shouldn't feel any type of way because you're different. And just to see somebody like Roman as like the focal point of something that I love so much just like really speaks volumes. And it in a sense I'm actually like very proud of him, you know, like it's almost like silly to say, but he is an amazing representative of like what we are. You know, even though like, you know, he may be Samoan, but yes, he does, you know, like you mentioned, he represents the Asian American Pacific Islander like community. And just to have someone of like his stature being of that descent, I couldn't be like prouder. And like and just seeing like the things he's doing, like whether he's champion or not, he's still like one of the greatest of all time, and that's like inside and out of the ring. You know, he's leaving a legacy between the ropes, yes, for like what he's done, but just as a person and his background, like what he can represent, just like it really does mean a lot to me. And the fact that like my son can watch it too, and he's a huge Roman Reigns fan, I just it just makes me like proud and like feel good about it. And it's so awesome. And you know, I know people will say what they will, but he can be champion for, you know, the next 6 years if for all I care. I'm enjoying
he's doing a really great job, and I'm glad that, you know, like the Anawai family, the Samoan dynasty, they're getting this push, because if you really look back, like there's never been a time when a member of that family hasn't been in WWE. I mean, you can go far back as the Wild Samoans, and we had the Islanders, and we had the Head Shrinkers, Fatu and Samu, and then, you know, you had you know, Fatu's been there for a long time, and now, you know, we have, you know, the Usos and, you know, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa doing their thing, and that family is huge. I think there's another one that's about to enter. I think his name is Tamiko Fatu, and that family is just huge. And yeah, we actually had the that's another favorite family of mine. We actually had Alpha's daughter, Vale Anawati, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday, Vale. Hope you have a great day, or hope you had a great day. But we had her on the show too, and I was like, in my mind, I was like just dumbfounded. Like, I'm having a member of the Samoan dynasty on my show.
That's incredible. Major props for that. Yeah.
I'm having Alpha, the Wild Samoan's daughter, the manager of the tag team champions, the Head Shrinkers, on our show. This is, I had to pinch myself like 10 times just to make sure I wasn't dreaming. But yeah, I'm definitely glad that they're getting that. They definitely deserve this, especially considering how much they've given back as well too. And yeah, and you know something I gotta say, man, like. In regards to, you know, people assuming you know all foreign martial arts, trust me, man. I had somebody one time assume because I'm black I can rap. I'm like, no, I'm not a rapper. R&B singer maybe, but not a rapper.
It's amazing what people think of you just because of the color of your skin.
Yeah, but whenever I see somebody, I'm like when I started, I was like, he's either I was thinking either Filipino or Cambodian.
Okay,
that was
yeah,
the first two.
We're people are kind of like right in that area. So.
You could be Japanese too, you know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I spent like 3 years in Japan, so
wow.
I tend to be able to like I can differentiate between like certain like surnames. Like, oh, that's a Japanese name. That's a Japanese last name. That's a Korean last name. Oh, that's Chinese. That's Vietnamese. You know, so I could definitely differentiate. I've gotten good at differentiating, you know, the names and the surnames and so on. So, yeah,
I'm super jealous. Japan is one of my dream destinations. I've never been, so I can't believe that you spent so much time there. That's amazing.
I was I was stationed in the Navy and I was stationed there for 3 years. So, at first I had my doubts, but like after like a couple months of living there, I was like, yeah, I could do this for the next couple of years. I like this.
Yeah,
people are chill. You know, the portions are smaller. So it's like if you have a craving for something but don't want to break your diet, it's like just the right amount they give you. And Japan is just a great vibe. Definitely a great vibe. But I'm not gonna hold you up anymore, Chris. I just gotta say, you know, on behalf of, you know, myself, and my two other co-hosts who couldn't be here. Hopefully you get to meet them because we're probably going to have you back on for one of our prediction shows if you have time. We tend to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
and anytime I'm always down. I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. On behalf of our, myself and our co-host, we just gotta say, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to, appear on our show as a guest and, shoot the breeze about wrestling and your fandom for it, and also your great cosplays. Sir, you have a talent. Do not stop. Keep on going. I'll be expecting to see some more cool stuff from you too. So
I got a
keep
lot
it
of
up.
stuff in the works for the rest of the year and spilling into next year. So hopefully you like it. I'm very. I don't do this in like how can I say this, like an arrogant way or like a bad way, but I'm very secretive about my work just because I want the reveal to be bigger, and I think it's more fun that way. So I don't really give a lot of hints, but every now and then I'll drop some clues as to what I'm working on. But yeah, I got a lot of stuff planned for this year and next year. So hopefully hopefully you like it.
I almost forgot one more thing. Subway Rumble, the
Oh
Subway Rumble. Tell us about that. I'm sorry about that. Just one more. Tell us
absolutely.
about this.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about that. Oh man, so after Comic-Con last year, that was the first year where I was a wrestler for like all 4 days. So I did a Seth. Seth was Thursday. Friday was the Usos. I was Usos part of the day, and then later that day I was Roman. Saturday was Shawn Michaels, and then Sunday was Bret Hart. I caught the attention of he's now one of my friends. His name is Tim Rivera. So he was like, oh, I like what you do. Maybe we can collaborate like sometime in the future. And I've been a fan of his work for years. He does like the Subway Rumbles, the Subway Manias. He does a lot of like comedy sketches, like primarily wrestling, but he has like a lot of other characters that he works on.
Right.
So we exchanged info. He actually invited me to be a part of like the Chalkline commercial, like in cosplay. So he was Bret Hart and I was Shawn Michaels. So we were trying to promote a sale that they were having around like Black Friday, and that's around like Thanksgiving. So he thought it'd be like cool to have like a Montreal Screwjob kind of like reenactment. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and that's how I really got to know him. And he's such an awesome guy. Like he's getting like such a big following, super humble, like very talented. So yeah, I thought like maybe like sometime down the line, we could connect again and work on another project. Little did I know he'd be like, oh hey, would you like to do this Royal Rumble on the train? We call it Subway Mania, and I'm thinking like, man, like I see like you guys are actually like taking bumps on the train. Like I live in New Jersey, but I work in New York City, so I've been on the subway. I know how dirty it is. I know how nasty it is. I'm like, man, like we spent some time earlier today just talking about like how much time it takes just to get these like cosplays right, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, this is like really fun. I've seen a lot of the past videos. I've loved all of them. I think it'd be like something special to be a part of and like remember. And so my friend John, he's the person who you referred to. He was the other Uso. So he was and I was Jay. So so Tim, the creator of Subway Media, he was asking me like, hey, do you know anybody that does like a Big Daddy Cool or like Kevin Nash? And I was like, oh yeah, my friend John was was Diesel for Comic-Con. I showed him a picture and he loved it right away. He's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, get him on board. Give me his info. So we, we were in it together, and it was nice to have like, cause he's one of my closest friends, like in real life. So just to have him be like part of this, like with me, but what made it even more special. So we kind of have like these meetings, and it's funny because like when you see the products, like the finished like match and like how it unfolds, it's done in like a very entertaining way, and like it's very comedic, and like a lot of jokes, a lot of like inside jokes if you're a wrestling fan, so you would appreciate it a little bit more. But like there's so much behind the scenes work that like goes into it, like a lot of planning. It's one thing to get your own personal like suit and like gear ready for that, but like you're all working together, and like the way Tim described it to all of us was like, okay, it's gonna be fun. If you mess up, it's okay. Like we can just retake it. It's fine. So I'm thinking like, okay, this will be fun. We have like a few spots planned, and so I have no idea how like an actual Royal Rumble is booked, but like I think what we did was probably similar to it. So we know the order we're coming out in, and we know like who's gonna eliminate us, who we're gonna eliminate, like and I think you just asked us to like think of like a spot or two that you want to do like each character. So of course, I saw because I got to deliver a super kick or something. So something like thinking like, okay, we're gonna show up, have fun. My friend John, he's Nash. He's gonna deliver like a big boot. We had my friend Aaron was like Macho Man. He wants to do like the elbow, and so we've all got our things planned, and we show up that day, and I think like so at this point like Tim has like such a strong following that like when we put something out there like publicly, there's going to be like a lot of eyes on it. So he put the location where we're going to be so that like we can have a crowd for this event. And man, like everybody was like hyped. Like when I showed up, there's like people with signs. One guy had a sign saying like it was his birthday, and I'm like, oh wow, this is going to be like legit. I thought there's going to be like maybe like 10 people on the train. There's like I don't know, like 50, 60 maybe. It's like kind of like a blur to me without the video, but it was packed in there. So we show up, and I think because everybody was so like excited for it, it caught the attention of like the NYPD. So now they're like oh, what's going on? So they're following us to to where we're going, and we're thinking like, oh no, like we spent all this time like planning this and putting this together, like meeting up with each other just to figure out what's going on. Like it's gonna be all for nothing. Like we had cameramen, we had like photographers, like it was a whole production. So eventually, like long story short, we eventually end up losing like the police. Like I mean, the worst that could have happened was they could have just told us to stop, and we would have just ended it right there. It would have been like a shame for us, but but we're like a few of us were thinking like the worst case scenario, like oh my goodness, we're gonna get arrested or something like that, which I don't think was the case. But when you see cops, you're always like nervous. But anyway, so we take the train all the way to the last stop, so that way we are the first and the only ones on the train going in the opposite direction. Once we get started, it wasn't what I imagined. Like I thought it was just gonna be like fun, silly, kind of like goofy, just as wrestling fans, we've all wrestled somebody like as a kid or maybe even as an adult, right? Yeah. So we're just gonna do this, but like the crowd is really into it, and instead of like instead of just like it was fun, but like it ended up being like a one-shot like production where like you're watching live wrestling. So like wrestlers are coming out like to the music, fans are cheering, you're doing your thing. It's like live. Like at this point there's like no like botching or like anything. So it becomes like very serious, and like I'm just like, oh my goodness, like like I'm thinking it's gonna be like here and it's like here, but it was super stressful, but like in a good way. But by the end of it, like we all had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and like it was a lot of like pressure and a lot of like a lot of obstacles in the way, especially with like the police. But at the end of it, we were like really proud of like what we put together. And it was so much fun. We had a great time, and then like just reading through the comments, I'm just happy like a lot of people enjoyed it, and it wasn't all for nothing. We had a great time doing it together. And I think the best part actually about it was that like now, I had like 3 friends like going into it, but I just made like all these new friends, and they're really excited for it. And there's a lot of really good guys doing it. Like everybody involved was like super nice.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you guys ever need a Kamala, please let me know. I'll definitely, I'll show up there with no shirt, no shoes on, and go, and I'll have the paint on, everything, and yeah, man, just let me know.
That's incredible. I love that.
My head is already bald too. I ain't got no hair on my head too, so yeah, man, let me know. I was gonna
mention it. That's like a pretty simple like cosplay to pull. I'm surprised we haven't seen Kamala cosplayers. I
was thinking about Coco Career, but then I was thinking I don't have no hair on my head. I gotta get dye, and then I gotta get a parrot from somewhere, and then people are then you're gonna have the animal rights people thinking, oh, how could you put a parrot in that, in that danger. You're a monster. So I was like, let me, yeah, Kamala would be a better fit. At least nobody's gonna, get upset if I, do this and, speaking gibberish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you make a great Coco Beware. I love, I try to stick to like my favorites because if I'm gonna put like this much time and energy into it, it's gonna be somebody like I really love. But I love to see like the lesser known names like a Coco Beware. I'd go crazy if I saw you like dressed up as Coco Beware at a live event. Right? Like, I'd be running up to you to get a picture with you for that. For sure.
Hit him with the pilot driver. But Chris, I just gotta say, man, it was fun having you on here.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much again.
I wish you nothing but the best. Hopefully, I could get that. I could, get to see Subway Mania or Subway Rumble or maybe Subway Survivor Series, live one of these days. It looks like a great time. I wish you nothing but the best with, the cosplaying, and looking forward to seeing the many future cosplays that you're gonna do as well. With that being said, before we shut this show down, where can fans find you? Where can fellow wrestling fans find you on social media when they want to talk wrestling, look for some cosplay tips, find out when your next pretty much, I guess, well, you say you don't give away stuff, but check out your cosplay work and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, so on Instagram, I've got two accounts. One primarily for fashion, but we're talking wrestling. So my wrestling account it's just my name at Chris Wain WAIN WWE. So at Chris Wain WWE. So that's where all my like wrestling content is. I throw like a few things like here and there, like outside of wrestling. I try to get my kids involved, like my wife, if possible. And then on Twitter, at master_Wayne. Again, it's WAIN. So either one of those, I've again, all wrestling related stuff, cosplay related stuff. I like supporting like fellow cosplayers, and of all genres, but primarily wrestling. So feel free to message me. I love to interact with a lot of people, and say what you will about like wrestling or cosplay, but I've met some amazing people. I'm involved in like several group chats now just through cosplay, and I talk to these people more than like my actual like friends and like family now. So I've met some great people, and I'd love to meet more.
Yes, yeah, definitely make sure y'all follow Chris. He's a very talented man, and I'm telling y'all, his cosplays are amazing. You will not be disappointed. You'll be like, okay, what's he gonna do next? Who's he gonna come out as next? I can't wait. The anticipation is killing me. Definitely follow this guy. You will not be bored. But with that being said, it's about time for us to shut this show down. My eyelids are getting heavy. My stomach is rumbling. That means it's time for dinner and a nap. Maybe not in that order, but before I partake in those activities, for those of you watching and listening, if you want to find me on social media, not that I see a lot of cool stuff, but I do go to a lot of cool places every now and then. You can definitely find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Remy Blue. I'm also on Facebook under the alias Remy Blue, and our podcast is actually on social media as well. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Society, Twitch at Ringside Society 2019. We're on Facebook as a Facebook group, and we're also on Spotify. And we also have a Teespring store where we sell official Ringside Society merchandise. We have T-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve shirts. We even have coffee. We have coffee mugs for your favorite warm beverage. So definitely check us out. Cop some merch. All proceeds go back into keeping our show afloat. We have several designs as well too. What I'm wearing right now is the Ringside Society Valentine's Day shirt. If you love wrestling that much, definitely check it out. And like I said, all proceeds go back to keeping our show afloat and not go back into our pockets. And we have a couple more designs coming soon. As a matter of fact, one of them is actually for this segment, 15 Minutes of Fandom. That's right. We have something for the fans as well too. And last but not least, we have a YouTube channel where we, have cool interviews like this one, like the one we had with the crying CM Punk fan. Shout out to Frank. We have several great guests. We just had Malcolm Flex from Oregon Pro Wrestling, who's a trainer. He's a trainer there. You can definitely check that interview out. And we have a lot more great interviews coming up. So, and if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, all you gotta do is go on YouTube, type in Ringside Society, and once you see that really gorgeous dark blue and light blue yin yang sound with the blue frames around it, that's when you know it's us. So make sure you subscribe to all our videos because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and you don't want to miss a thing like Aerosmith in 1998. But with that being said, we just want to thank everybody tuning in live tonight. Thank you very much. We really and truly appreciate it. We strive on being one of the best wrestling podcasts a wrestling fan could and should listen to, and we will not stop doing so. To those of you that are going to listen later on, we get a chance. Thank you very much in advance. And those y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we go away. Well, like myself at a Golden Corral, we're not going anywhere for a while. With that being said, we just want to let everybody know that we're very well and aware that everybody and their grandparents and their parents have a podcast. But we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. Hashtag, we are not the same. With that being said, I'm going to say it one time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, and one time for the great cosplays from the great mind of Chris Wain. We're the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society, and we'll be back tomorrow with our WWE Backlash predictions. We don't have any special guests yet, but we will have them soon. Until then, we just have 4 favors for y'all. Stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. We out. Peace.